Hello malt mates, welcome to Ralphie Review 1085 here in the Whisky Bothy. Not any old bothy, by the way, definitely a whisky bothy with special guests. Hello! Hang about, grab bottle, grab glass. Actually, this cat's not too bad. He doesn't tip my whisky over, and he certainly doesn't try to steal any. So this is review number 1085, and this little vagrant wants treats, and because he's a smart cat, that's Billy Bundle, by the way, Billy the cat, he'll accept the treats he's given and then he'll just depart the bothy and leave me to get on with the review. Because if he pestered me having finished them, I would ban him from the bothy completely. I would barricade the place, so much so that not even the mice could get in. But I tell you what can get into the bothy: bottles of whisky and other quality spirits. I shall now pour and review this whisky, which I never intended to review. I mentioned this in last month's Bothy Live, which is a 2-hour live stream on my channel for Patreon subscribers only. And I happened to mention that I'd been in a whisky shop, I'd got this whisky, and it had a very interesting story around it. But I hadn't actually planned to review it because it's one of these really small batch releases that's specifically, as far as I'm aware, in the UK market only. But I've changed my mind about reviewing this for a very simple reason. It's such an interesting situation here. This bottle, until I saw it in a whisky shop, I never even knew it existed. I wasn't aware of it until I walked into a Glasgow specialist whisky shop. It was the Good Spirits Company. And I said, right guys, lovely to see you, blah, blah, blah. What are you going to sell me? And the lovely lady at the counter suggested this. Now, initially, I wasn't that interested because this channel is about more mainstream, more accessible, available whiskies. But now and again, you get a real small batch, particularly interesting bottle, which even if it's not available elsewhere at the moment, it's highly likely in the near future that it will be. So there may as well be a reference online about it. This has been part of a conversation within the online whisky community. It's one of these discovered whiskies, which was intended to be discovered. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually give the smell and taste review, and in my following review 1085 extras, I'm going to actually explain what this is all about and why it is a very intriguing development in what's called guerrilla marketing. And so I've been doing a bit of a deep dive in this, and I look forward to sharing the forensics with you. But at the moment, I'm going to stick to the smell and taste forensics. This is natural colour, natural unchill filtered, right? It's bottled at 46.3%. It says natural colour unchill filtered in the back. And it is bottled as a blended Scotch whisky. However, they don't say what the components are. What they do say is that it is a very small amount of grain whisky and a very large amount of single malt whisky. Hence the reason for the name of this bottling, 99 and 1. So it's 99% of single malt or blended malt. It could be blended malt, but I think it's single malt. And it's 1% of grain whisky. And it's described as an accident at the bottling plant, which, being a cynical bamstick, I do not believe for one single minute. In my opinion, if there is an accident in the bottling plant where 1% of anything gets it added to anything else, if it's perceived that it's going to devalue it, I think it's just ignored. Now, I've got to stress, that's my personal and rather cynical opinion, so please treat it as such. Because business is business, and we know that the industry collectively does have a cynical side to it. We see that playing out more and more. So what have we got here in the nose? Something that's very heavily peated. It's also significantly aged because we're getting particularly a lot of sherry cask influence. But it's not standard sherry cask. There's something deeper and darker and more industrial going on here. And you pick up immediately on the nose, not just because we're guided by the smells, but it's the sensation that comes through with the smell. It's slightly marine, it's slightly bitter, it's slightly sour. There's a lot of complexity going on here, and first impressions are not that favourable, right? When you put your nose back into it, you start to smell more of the malt. To me, it smells suspiciously like 18-year-old heavily peated Lechaik from Tobermory Distillery. But I stress, that's only a personal opinion. And I'm making that reference because I've reviewed Lechaik 18-year-old in the past, and I highly recommend it to you as a single malt. If you love the peat monsters, you're going to adore Lechaik 18-year-old, which is certainly a lot more available than this is. When we taste it at 46.3%, there's a clue there. Oh, astringent, carbolic, sooty, very mineral. It's like scorched earth and chimney stacks. It's like traction engines and steam trains and industrial equipment. That's what it's like. Almost, if you were to imagine the taste of a steelworks, this is what you'd be imagining. Big fusile note, big astringency, very carbonic, and I am immediately going to add a full 5 milliliter teaspoon of water, because my goodness, it needs it. There's a lot of whiskey going on for something bottled at 46.3%. Now there's another clue. So I'm starting to drop clues now. I'm going to roll it around the glass briefly, and I'm going to tell you the price of this. £55 a bottle. It is very competitively priced when you start to understand what's actually being bottled here. But, and there's a but, this is not for the faint-hearted. You would never, ever, ever, and I mean never, buy this for someone's birthday who only drank whiskey to see in the new year, because they would be horrified. They would think that they were drinking Monster energy drink on steroids with a massive dash of raw alcohol added, because the palate can't cope with it. But for the enthusiast, people with developed palates, that's us, the people like yourselves that watch these sort of reviews, you're going to say, that sounds quite interesting. That sounds like a heavily peated whiskey with more phenolics added externally. And you'd be absolutely right. However, I'm not going to go any further down that road. That will be mentioned in some detail in review extras, 1085 extras coming up next. Back to the dram. Adding some water softens it down considerably. There's another clue. Just a little bit of water. It just takes the heat, it takes the chili, it takes the umami shock out of the nose for starters, and it becomes more distinctly like a successfully endurance heavily peated Tobermory single malt. That's what I'm getting. On the taste, now the arrival's taking shape. The arrival is soft carbonic. It's burnt licorice. It's mineralated aniseed. It's carbolic. It's antiseptic. It's super intense. And if you like peat monsters, this is going to blow your socks off, because it's probably at least as dynamic, if not more so in its own way, than cask strength 10-year-old Laphroaig. That's what I'm getting. So I'm going to add some more water to this, because this is a big, big event. So this is another 5 millilitres from the teaspoon, soda spoon, sorry, added to the whiskey. And at this point, where's me? Right. I'm going to bring in the glass I poured last night and put in the fridge with a plastic egg cup on top of the glass to hold in the liquor. Now, it's a little bit frosted at the moment. I'm going to rub the mist off with my hand and hold it close. You can clearly see that is legitimately unchill filtered. When it's unchill filtered, the actual energy, the drama, the intensity of the delivery is amplified substantially, because the mouthfeel has more intensity. If this had been chill filtered, not so nice. But it hasn't been, and I've proven it, and I had to put it in the fridge because it's the middle of summer here in the Irish Sea. So the mist would be a lot more slow to develop if I just done it here in the bothy here and now. So there's your point of reference. Hold it up again. You can clearly see substantial Scotch mist. Put that aside to be finished later, because nothing goes to waste round here. No. Back to the glass. Before I give it a malt mark, and I won't forget this week. Hey, it comes to us all. The distractions of the intensity of life. More water's added. The creaminess is coming through. Distinctly more fresh citrus sherry notes. Oloroso sherry. Quite citrus. There's a clue. There's a clue. So we're getting a series of little tiny clues that are all adding up to present a picture which is neither denied nor verified by the bottler, who is Living Souls, a small Glasgow-based independent bottling company. I like the label. The label is, there's no container with this, which is good. But what they've done is they've just spent a little bit more on putting a big label on, which, by the way, is roughly the size of the label I wanted to put in my bottles when I was bottling whiskey a few years ago, but in fact they turned out to be too big. But this has got a little bit of embossed section here in the cream coloured section where it says Living Souls, 99 and 1, blended Scotch whisky. I will read out the narrative in the back, because it's very theatrical and it's quite entertaining. But I'll wait till my extras review to do that. Let's conclude in this one so we're not getting too long-winded. Scotch mist, absolutely starting to appear in this glass, but it's not fully developed yet. Far from it. Much more palatable, less of a shock, less industrial, more traditional, more of what we expect from Ledaig. Fresher now in the palate. The carbolic, the burnt licorice, the chimney soot has subsided. And what's coming through the back of it is a deeply honeyed, syrupy, heavily peated island style of single malt, which has got a lot of character and frankly is quite recognisable. The development has got loads of ginger in it, some fresh ginger, it's got a little bit of heat in it, so there's some heat come from the casks during maturation, and that is yet another clue. But the finish is rich in tannins, and it's rich in gingeriness. It's got that almost that rich sultana raisin combination intensified, almost like raisin cordial. There's almost a plum note running through this, a palinka note, which is just going from start right through to the finish. The finish is delightful. This is an engaging and impressive whisky, and I have to add, what you're getting for £55 a bottle is very good value. And it is worth the cryptic coding which you're getting on the bottle label, which, as I've mentioned, I shall go into greater depth with in my next review, number 1085 Extras. But here's the mark, 83 out of 100, well earned, well deserved, a fascinating cryptic whisky, a blended whisky, allegedly 3 years old, but not fooling anybody. And the more you go online and inquire and do your own forensics about it and private investigation, the more you see an interesting story emerging about this. And I don't think it's the last time we're going to see this particular style of what I mentioned at the beginning of the video is called guerrilla marketing. It's hint marketing aimed specifically. It's a challenging malt, and it helps to aim at the genuine enthusiast market, where our palates are ready and capable of not just analysing it, but actually enjoying the experience. And that's really all I have to say. I'll see you soon.